What's up, guys? So I want to go over this research study titled Evidence-Based Resistance Training Recommendations for Muscular Hypertrophy. This is by James Fisher, James Steele, and Stuart Bruce Lowe. This is actually a paper that's kind of a summary paper where they go through 130 research studies to find the answers to proper training. Okay, so how many sets should we do? How hard should we train? How much weight should we use? How frequently should we train? So these are the ideas that they're trying to come to a consensus with what the research says and what it doesn't say. Okay, because there's a lot that's still unclear, and we need to be honest about that when we're giving training recommendations. So let's go ahead and dive into this research paper. So they went through a few studies here that show how intensity of effort has been considered to be the single most influential controllable variable for enhancing muscular strength. And through the size principle, the sequential recruitment of motor units trained to momentary muscular failure is what enrolls the muscle fibers in a catalyst adaptation. So there's a few studies here that they go over. Thought that was really cool just to read that statement in a paper. And then as we go through this section, skipping down to the summary, it suggests that activation of muscle fibers appears to stimulate muscular responses, causing hypertrophy. Recruiting as many motor units as possible through training to momentary muscular failure appears optimal for muscular hypertrophy. There's no claim using either light or heavy loads is better to obtain this, to train to momentary muscular failure. So you don't have to choose a heavy load, you have to choose a light load. Whatever load you do choose, you have to take that set to failure. And this is something my professors told me in college, like years ago. So this is no-brainer stuff. I don't see how people even discuss this. Like anyone who says that you just training to failure is not gonna stimulate the most muscle, then they're wrong and they need to read up on the research. Also, I wanted to go over this paragraph here about repetition duration, so about performing your reps fast or slow. And there was a study done here where the researchers had somebody perform 25 reps of leg extension in 45 seconds to see how that would produce strength or hypertrophy gains, and it didn't. It didn't produce gains. And so they end up saying that, this kind of just shows that there wasn't even enough mechanical tension because of that load being so light, and they just performed it like all out fast. So, 25 reps in 45 seconds doesn't mean they went to failure. Just training it very fast doesn't mean you're getting somewhere. So it has to be a muscular tension component. So I think we would probably all agree with that. So the section here on repetitions concludes very similarly to the last one, saying that high and low repetition duration found no significant difference. And you're going to recruit the muscle fibers the same. Henneman size principle is going to play out, going to failure, and that's going to give you that hypertrophic stimulus. It doesn't matter how fast or slow you perform your reps, because what matters is you went to failure. They're going to be recruited either way. Going slower is safer, but based on the research, can't say that you have to do one or the other. So now we're going to get into what people find is very controversial, and that's how many sets should you do. So in this section here, we have a study by Starkey in which they had females perform either 1 set or 3 sets of knee extension and flexion. And they found no differences between the growth of both groups. Another study here by Ostrowski divided groups into 1 set, 2 sets, or 4 sets. And they performed 4 different workouts, training their legs, chest, shoulders, back and calves, biceps, triceps. They measured it with ultrasound, and then at the end of the study, they compared the results and found that no significant difference. No significant increases in muscle thickness for knee extensors in either group. So, this is a common finding that either they're not even finding a increase or there's really just no difference at all. Here at the end of their section about training volume and number of sets, they say the number of sets performed does not show a relationship to hypertrophy gains. Most likely it's because people are performing multiple exercises for the same muscle group, and they state that their recommendation is to perform one single set of each exercise to momentary muscular failure. Next, the researchers go through a very lengthy portion of their paper dedicated to muscular contractions, so concentric, isometric, and eccentric. Here at the end of that lengthy review, they found that you should include concentric, eccentric, and isometric muscle actions, and the intensity of effort is the variable that is going to determine muscle fiber recruitment. So, it's saying that you could use an isokinetic dynamometer for training, but they're not sure if that could cause an injury. Using different resistance types, even, there's no evidence to suggest that one's better than the other. So machines, free weights, body weight, they all work just as effectively because you're contracting your muscles. So if you contract the muscle, you're going to be getting stimulus. And if you can take that stimulus to a point of failure, then you've stimulated muscle growth. Here in their conclusion of their entire paper, they go ahead and say kind of their recommendations based on their research. So intensity of effort should be maximal to recruit and stimulate growth of many muscle fibers as possible by training to momentary muscular failure. Single sets of exercises appear to attain similar results to multiple sets, and load used and number of repetitions performed seems not to affect hypertrophy where sets are taken to momentary muscular failure. While repetitions should be performed at a pace that maintains muscular tension. Long rest intervals appear unnecessary. They found all of this with their study going through 130 research papers, detailed examples in this entire paper. It's a very long paper. So it's important to know that these are the recommended ideas. One set doesn't seem to be any better or worse than doing 3 sets when taken to failure. So it's important to train to failure, and then from there, just train only with a frequency and a volume that you can actually recover from. Here is basically the same stuff I just went over, but just in a chart version that they provide in the end of their study. So you can see it written out here. The articles they went through to support their claims and what those claims were. All in all we do know is to train to failure and do one set. Even here they go over range of motion, and there's no evidence to suggest that decreasing range of motion negatively affects muscular hypertrophy. So, that makes sense if you think about it, because you can just perform an isometric contraction and hold that maximally until you can no longer hold it, and that's going to do the same thing. So, range of motion, it's completely overhyped, and I totally fell for that hype. But when it comes to recruiting muscles, range of motion is not what recruits them. So it's intensity of effort. Contraction types, concentric, eccentric, and isometric. Based on research, you want to include all of those. I'm just using the isometric one as an example. A type of resistance. So you can use free weights, machines, other types of resistance. One of these, they use like an electric stem machine. It came with the same hypertrophy as somebody using weights. So, you can use different modalities. Here it's saying non-uniform muscle growth. So that's basically having some different muscle imbalances. And it's telling you, it's just to perform a variety of exercise, a variety of, angles and hand grips to attempt to do it, to fix it. But sometimes it might just be beyond your control. It might just be your genetics. Training and detraining time course. So untrained persons appear to be able to make hypertrophy in around 3 weeks of resistance training. Trained persons perform regular resistance training are encouraged to allow adequate rest between training sessions without fear of atrophy. That's huge. Brief 3 weeks absences from training appear not to cause significant atrophy and potentially promote greater hypertrophy upon training. So, you can take up to 3 weeks off and not have to worry at all about losing anything. So there's really no drawbacks to resting more in order to have a better workout next time. Okay, gone are the days of training every day and grinding every day, doing 3, 4, 5, 6 sets per workout. If that's how you want to train, be my guest, but it's not research-based, it's not evidence-based. And I feel like when people avoid training properly, as the research suggests, 1 set to momentary muscular failure, taking days off, recovering, adapting, progressing. When people truly reject that and they try to force training multiple sets, try doing higher volumes, they run into a lot of problems, a lot of compensations that they have to make. They have to go take deloads. They have to train less intensely. They have injuries. It's just not worth it. So why not, try this? Why not try training according to the research, according to this paper, this evidence-based paper, which is not being biased whatsoever in how they reviewed their literature. It's so important that we train properly for our goals and for being able to recover and adapt to our training. So I hope you guys like this study, and go ahead and give me a thumbs up, subscribe, comment down below what you'd like for me to talk about next. We're gonna have to make videos on probably all these topics and spread this out because it's a detailed field of exercise science, and there's a lot to cover. So I really want everyone to make the best gains they possibly can, trained by the research, not just by culture and tradition. So thank you guys so much. Have a great day.